Good morning. It is Sunday, yes, November 7th, actually, and I am going a little bit early. I scheduled this for 11:15, but I already kind of got everything accomplished that I was trying to do before the stream, so I'm going to go a little bit early. Going to fix my mic here a little bit. Oh, that was not good. My mic just fell apart. One sec. Sorry for making noises here. Wasn't expecting that to happen. 1 second here. As soon as I went live, isn't that the way it always is? There we go. High production quality right there. Oh, no, it's still not working. Anyways, not going to touch that because that's going to fall apart on me. So anyways, good morning. Yeah, I'm a little bit early. Got some stuff done this morning, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go and I'm going to do this stream because we talked about it the other day, and it is a reoccurrent thing that keeps coming up in the atheist community. And it is driving people nuts because I've seen it everywhere nowadays. It's actually been in like a handful of Facebook groups, and people have been talking about it just recently because it keeps coming back around. And it is something that I wrote a blog on, which I'm going to try to go over here a while back because I don't think I ever read that blog entry on stream. I don't recall doing it. If I did, then I apologize and I'll read it again, but I don't think that I ever did. But I kind of wanted to talk about, again, this hill that I think that Aron Ra keeps wanting to die on. I don't get it. I don't understand it. It's been explained to him by countless people. People that know philosophy, people that like philosophy, logicians, experts in their field. Every single one of them, every single person I know that knows philosophy thinks Aron completely out to lunch on this. Because, in fact, he is. But it's what he wants to die on. So I figured, okay, we'll discuss it again as a group. But he, for some reason, wants to believe that rocks are atheist. Okay, that's fine. You can have beliefs, right? I mean, it's a faith-based belief because he has no evidence to support that. It's based upon a really distorted view of semantics and logic. But it's his freedom to believe that, obviously. But I want to point out to people why I think it's absolutely asinine. And while Aron might be great at phylogeny, he sucks at philosophy. And again, this is nothing personal to Aron. I happen to think Aron's a good guy. I know a lot of people do like him, a lot of people don't like him. I have people in my audience, some like him, some don't. It's irrelevant. It's nothing personal to Aron. I would be happy to have a discussion with Aron one of these days on it, but he never will. He's not competent enough to have a discussion on this particular topic with me, I don't think. Or anybody else, to be honest with you. It's not just me. I'm not trying to say I'm like up here. I'm just saying that he is not even at the entry level to have a competent discussion on logic, I think. But his recent thing has been that he keeps putting out is that there seems to be this weird dichotomy between atheism and theism, that you are either one or the other, which we've already established is not the case. That's demonstrable. But he tweeted this out the other day, and he said, basically, since atheism is a lack of belief, rocks can only be atheist or theist. Well, there's some problems with this. Now, according to his paradigm, according to his schema, he would be logically consistent with inside that. If it is the case, it is either one or the other, then yes, rocks are one or the other. Okay. But you can make any dichotomy for that. You can say duck or cow. Not duck, therefore cow. Well, rocks aren't ducks, so they must be cows. But of course, they're not cows, therefore they must be ducks. So there's some problems with that, right? But one of the analogies I'm going to use to kind of dispel this weird belief that he has is that he's using a descriptive source as a prescriptive one, right? He goes by the dictionary, opens up the dictionary, and goes, oh, look, this is what the dictionary says this word means. Not recognizing, even though I've wrote an essay on this called By Definition, which I'll put in the video description, I forgot to, but I wrote a blog entry in an essay called By Definition where I explain you cannot get rationally a prescriptive meaning from something from a descriptive one. It doesn't work like that. Dictionaries are descriptive. They describe usages, right? And so one of the ways I can easily dispel his argument is to show this. Yeah, wrong one. Okay, so this right here is a dictionary definition of immoral, okay? And it says, quote, not conforming to accepted standards of morality, right? Not conforming to accepted standards of morality? Do rocks conform to accepted standards of morality? No, they do not. Using Aron's exact same reasoning, rocks are, in fact, immoral using that semantic schema. If anybody has an argument against that, by all means, let me know. If you have a flaw in that reasoning, let me know, because I'm using the exact same reasoning that Aron Ra is using to promote this rocks as atheism crap. And which, by the way, is I do think is like the flat earth of atheism. I mean, if you want to believe that rocks are atheists, be my guest, but I'm telling every atheist out there, it makes you look stupid. It makes you look incompetent. It makes you look like you have no idea about the most basic understandings of philosophical underpinnings, logic, and reason. So here's the definition. Again, this is a descriptive definition. This means that in the English language, the word immoral is being used this way to denote, or connote, I should say connote, not denote. It's actually to connote not conforming to accepted standards of morality. Rocks fit that description. Again, description. It describes something, right? This cup does not conform to accepted standards of morality. Why? Because it can't. It has no ability to have morality. It just doesn't, right? So that according to Aron Ra, would be, if he was being consistent in his argumentation, let me fix this so it doesn't clip my chat there. One sec. Drive me nuts. To be consistent would mean that this cup would be immoral, right? My left foot would be immoral. I'm going to use my left foot argument, right? Because I used that with Matt Slick when he was talking about the laws of logic. So according to Aron Ra, my left foot is an atheist. You can quote me on that. Steve's left foot argument. Which I'm not going to codify, by the way. I don't think I really need to. But, okay, so I am watching the live chat, by the way, so I want your input on this. And by the way, if you guys have noticed, now that we've got some people here, I have put my Patreon in the link. I suck at self-promotion. As you guys know, my GoFundMe is down right now. It should be up in a business day or so, but I can't rely on that because people are going to be taking it up and down. It's going to be one of those things that's up for a couple days and down for a couple days because, again, people are false reporting it. Although the last report, I mean, I can't say it was false because it was a TOS violation. I get that. But they told me how to fix it, and I did, and they're going to reevaluate it and put it back up. But there are people obviously going out of their way to look for things like that. So if you really want to support this channel and me and the things I talk about and the lawsuit and everything else, the best way to do it right now until we get things more stable is through Patreon. So if I get if I had like 100 people at $10 a month, that would really make a huge difference for the lawsuit. Huge difference. 100 people at $10 a month. Now, do I think I'm going to get that? No. But that's kind of would be an awesome goal to reach, right? So if you want to support that, that's the best way to do it is through Patreon, at least right now. That may change later on, but if nothing changes, then at least I have that Patreon just to use for these things. And like I said, I am going to be putting out content. So Oshkosh Badash says, did you ever watch the video that I sent you, Anti-Citizen X, about the stigmatization of philosophy? I did, in fact, watch that video, Oshkosh Badash. It was pretty interesting. I had it in tab for quite some time until I moved and I had to shut everything down. I lost my tabs. But I was going to do something on that, actually. Showing me the stagnation of philosophy. I was going to do something on that. He makes some very interesting points. And I wanted to kind of dive into what like Stephen Hawking meant by philosophy is dead. But that's a completely different topic, but yes, I did. Your cup is going to hell. Yes, Mr. Sirius. Yes, this is an immoral cup. This is a bad cup. Bad cup. Bad. You've been bad. Ooh, it likes that. Yeah. Now it's going to go on OnlyFans. Look at that. Steve's fetish. Spanking cups. But somebody else said that rocks are amoral. Yeah, exactly. I was going to get there. Oflamemo for $5. Here's some money, Steve. Thanks. And by the way, I love Super Chats and I love PayPal and all that other stuff still going. By the way, feel free to ask me questions when you Super Chat, stuff like that. And stuff like that. I really like having these questions and stuff like that. But I appreciate that, Oflamemo, very much. Thank you. But somebody had mentioned like rocks are amoral. Yeah, exactly. And that's why I'm kind of going to go with that. So in the schema, if you have moral and immoral, such that if you are not moral, you're immoral, because here the definition of immoral is not moral. We're gonna compactify this, right? If you look at this definition, and you just got rid of the most of the stuff. You just got the core meaning of this descriptive definition. It is not moral. Would you guys agree? So not moral equals immoral in that schema. So if you're not moral, you must be immoral. There's no other options. But we know there are other options. Amoral, which means that you don't have the ability to be moral or immoral. My cup is amoral. It has no moral capacity. It is not a moral agent. It's not an agent of moral consideration even. It's, I can, if I punch this, oh shit, I got coffee on me. Good thing it wasn't too hot. I would sue. McDonald's reference. It's not McDonald's coffee though. But if I was to punch this, I'm not going to get arrested for assault. Why? Because it's not an agent of moral consideration. So we have another term that we use to describe that type of entity. And I mean entity as in something that exists. Something that has existential existence, right? Something that has ontology, right? It's an entity. It doesn't, by the way, entities don't have to have ontology. Math, numbers are entities. But if I punch this, I'm not going to get arrested. So it's amoral. There's nothing I have to give a crap about this cup. I can do what the hell I want with it, right? So rocks are the same way. They're amoral because the schema doesn't work, moral or immoral. But according to Aron Ra, if you follow the same line of reasoning that he's using, that cup, my left foot, by the way, you can use either argument, Steve's left foot argument or Steve's cup argument, I don't care, has to be immoral. So I want to know what you guys think of that, and I also want to guys show you this before if I get into my blog or not, and then I'm going to read some chat here. But let me show you this real quick. By the way, this might be a trigger warning to some. I don't want to get you guys triggered. This is a trigger to atheists, especially. So just take a deep breath here. But I want to show Aron Ra that evidence of a mass grave of atheists. This is evidence that this is a tragedy. This is a tragedy. This is a bulldozer, just bodies of atheists laying everywhere, right? And just bulldozing them into a mass grave. Why? Because you have to use the same reasoning that he's using. If rocks are atheists, then in this quarry, it's full of atheists. It's the same semantic nonsense, right? By the way, I hope you don't get too triggered from that. But yeah, it's the same line of reasoning. This is why everybody's been telling Aron, this is stupid. You're just being stupid on this. And I mean this so impassionately. Aron, stop it. Stop being stupid on this particular topic. Stick with what you know. Stick with biology, and everybody will love you, and you'll have a fandom, and you'll be praised, and you'll be a holy figure in the Messiah of biology, and I have no issue with that. But stop talking about philosophy when you don't know what the hell you're even beginning to talk about. And people can say that about me, and I'm okay with that, right? But all they got to do is show me that I'm wrong in this argument. Because every single person has shown Aron that he's wrong. Everyone that has known about philosophy has shown Aron's wrong on this. The Lifeline Apologetics says, it is beyond retarded when... he used the R word. It is beyond retarded when we're having this debate. Dealt with the clown on Clubhouse the other day calling rocks atheists, shaking my head. Yeah, no, it is, like I said, it is going around, and people don't recognize that I've been ringing this bell for years. Absolutely years. And this is kind of the thing that started it all just recently. It was like the other day. This is one of the threads, and I'm going to kind of show this here after I get rid of the bodies of atheists out there. Again, I don't want to like trigger a bunch of people. So, all right. So this is on Twitter, and this is what Jeff was talking about the other day. If you came on, you were here the other day when he came on, and he said, "I have a lot of respect for you, Aron. But I don't know why you're determined to die on this hill for such a nonsensical argument." Nobody knows. Nobody knows why he's willing to die on this hill. No clue. But Aron says, since atheism is the absence of theism, then rocks can only be atheist. Okay, let's look at that argument. Since immoral is the absence of morality, rocks can only be immoral. Same argument. No difference. It's just with the wording, it's a semantic argument. If it sounds silly to you to say that since immorality is the absence of morality, which it is, I mean, right? I mean, that's describing it. Immorality is the absence of morality. I mean, sure. Then rocks can only be immoral because they don't have morality. And if it sounds funny to you to say rocks are immoral, then you should have a really good hold on why Aron's argument is bad. If you think rocks are immoral, then I can't help you. You're just so out to lunch. I mean, there's no coming back from that. You might as well just turn full flat Earth. It's just there's no hope for you in philosophy or basic logic if you think that rocks are immoral, right? Because we're talking about ethics, and we're talking about moral considerations, and we're talking about what is a normative or performance act that we should do given a certain situation, right? That's what morality really kind of deals with. What do you do? Now, that's normative ethics, right? There's also clearly, meta-ethics and applied ethics and things of that nature. But for normative ethics, it's what you should do in a given situation. And many of us do think about that. I know a lot of people in my audience do tend to, ethical things. They're not ethicists, but, they want to do what's right, right? And Aron says, I thought it obvious that rocks are atheist, not having a belief in God, or not having God belief. Well, again, we already know that that's a really poor way to describe atheism, as opposed to theist having a belief in God. But everyone wants to misunderstand or misrepresent that. No, they don't, Aron. What they want to do is show you that you're being an idiot. What they want to do is show you that your argument is flawed, fundamentally flawed. Because, again, you can use the immoral argument for that. That's like saying, I thought it obvious that rocks were immoral, not having a morality, as opposed to moral. But everybody wants to misunderstand or misrepresent that. If that sounds odd to you, then you can see the issue why people are having so much problem with Aron really making the atheist community look silly. So, he says, being atheist means not having a God belief. No, it doesn't, Aron. What being atheist is in philosophy, again, is the belief that God does not exist. But if you want to, say that it's not having God belief, then being immoral means not having morality. You cannot separate those two arguments. They're the same argument, just a different word, because both of them are lacking something. One is lacking God, one is lacking morality. If you think one is correct argument, the other one you have to think is a correct argument by rational epistemic entailment, or at least implication. So, being theist means having a God belief. You only need the capacity to believe. Things that can't believe already don't. Okay. But if it doesn't have the capacity to believe, why would you ascribe these words to an inanimate object, right? The reason why we care about beliefs, the reason why people study epistemology, and the reason why we want to learn about why people believe what they do, because that's what I have an interest in. I want to know why people believe what they believe. I do. I like epistemology. So why do I care what a rock believes or doesn't believe? I don't. It's not an agent that can have beliefs, right? It doesn't have any cognitive abilities to do that. So, Dan the Machine makes a good point. Dan says, T-Jump might argue rocks are immoral, then again, that might be evidence to the contrary. Yes, T-Jump, I think, would argue, actually has argued, I'm going to take that back, not would, but has argued that rocks are immoral. And his reasoning for that is T-Jump has this weird argument. And again, I know this is going to bite me in the ass and people are going to use it, whatever. I do respect T-Jump in the fact that at least tries to make argumentation. Okay? I respect that. Because most people in the atheist community don't bother to even try to formulate new arguments. They don't try to add to the dialogue. Whether he's right or wrong about his argumentation, whether it's a good or bad argument, is a separate thing altogether. But at least he tries on that. I'm going to give him props for that. Okay? So kudos T-Jump for that. But T-Jump argues that rocks are immoral because his argument is called, he calls it something along the lines of involuntary imposition of will. And what he means by that is in his ethical framework, in T-Jump's epistemology, he believes that if something violates your autonomy, it is unethical. Whether you consent or not, I guess. I don't know. But if it violates your autonomy, it is immoral. So if you were walking along a beach and a rock falls off the cliff and hits you in the head, the rock is immoral. It is done an immoral act, even though it has not, it has not voluntarily done something, right? It's just an act of, quote, God. It's just, physics. But according to T-Jump's worldview on that, is it a worldview? Yeah, whatever. According to T-Jump's argument, he would say that the rock had an involuntary imposition of will, because you didn't want that rock to hit you on the head. And if you did, then it's not immoral. But if you don't want a rock to hit you on the head, then it's immoral. Now, I don't know why anybody would have an ethical framework like that. That's not why we have ethics. We have ethics because we live in a society. We're social creatures. We have to get along. The reason we don't go around all killing each other because the species would die out. The reason we don't go around stealing from all each other because you don't want to be stolen from. Don't steal from somebody else. Kyle Curtis. Gonna throw that one in there. So we have morality because we are social creatures. That really what I think stems, the whole fact of people say, well, where do we get morality from? Social evolution. Right? Now, I do think that some of these are kind of objective. I do believe in objective morality. Doesn't mean they're absolute. There's a huge difference between absolute and objective morality. But, yeah, Dan, you're right. T-Jump would argue that rocks are immoral. And so he would be taking not just Aron Ra's stance that rocks are atheist, he would be going one step further and just making it even worse, right? I mean, somebody else needs to come up with another thing other than immorality. I just picked immorality because I recognize morality, immorality, and amorality. We don't have atheism, and somebody will say, well, you have amoral, and that means the same as atheist, right? The A? No, it doesn't. That A, the Greek alpha primitive, means something different. It's not one specific thing. It could have usages. And the usages of the A in atheism is negation, as in not, as a negation of the proposition, not of the belief. But in amoral, it just means without. In that particular case, it means without morals. But it doesn't mean like without morals as far as an agent necessarily. It means anything without morals, right? This cup is amoral because it does not have the ability to be moral. A psychopath or a sociopath can be amoral because they lack the ability to. They don't have the ability to, or maybe it's diminished, right? You can be diminished. You can still have some morality, but it can be diminished and you can still be considered amoral, right? So a person being amoral and a cup being amoral may not represent or connote the exact same intentions of what the speaker's saying. If I say this is immoral and I say you are an immoral person, you gotta have a little self-awareness and intuition, meaning that to know that I mean very different things. Who out there thinks that when I say this cup is immoral would mean the same thing as I saying, Cheshire is immoral, right? Sorry, Chesh. Just saw your name out there. Inkboy, 5 pounds. I am looking at the timer and think that Kyle will pay you any second now. Yeah, right. 879 days. Wow, that's been a long time. Long time since Kyle broke his promise. And again, how many people did he make that promise to? Oh, a lot. Thousands of people he made that promise to. And he broke it. Who said he was going to break it? Oh, wait, that would be me. Be Cheshire. Be Ruhif. Be Reds. Boole. Everybody basically that knew what the hell was going on knew that Kyle was going to break his promise on that. Why is the cup not invisible? Because I'm not using a green screen. This is actually a real background. So, I'm not using a green screen. Let's see here. Beast of the Heart, Lyrics of the Soul. That is an interesting name. Making this argument is stupid when you know 100% Aron said it as a triggering meme and is writing the exposure. The meme is only supposed to trigger theists, so why are you getting triggered by it? Oh, I'm not triggered. No, it's not triggered. It doesn't upset me. It doesn't trigger me that Aron's an idiot. It just means that his argument's flawed. And as somebody who's in the atheist community, out there, not me, but I mean you guys or whoever's out there in the atheist community, why would you want somebody to have a bad argument? You guys should be triggered by this, not me. Atheists should be triggered by this, not theist. He has a bad argument. And again, it's not even triggering, right? Because triggering is an emotional response, right? If you have PTSD or something like that, that's how you get triggered, right? Nobody's triggered in this. We're just explaining why this is a bad argument. And so you don't need to bring in these emotionally laden words in order to defeat an argument. You just show that the argument is flawed. So show me that the argument is flawed. Show me my argument is flawed if you want. A Flame of $5 says, why do atheists seem to practice to be closer to a Yahwehist? We don't see atheist debunks of Chemosh even though he is in the Bible. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't get into the whole, Bible believing versus not believing versus, what's true or not. I don't get into those discussions. Look, if you want to have a discussion on the Bible, go get Dr. Josh. You can't do much better than that. Go find him. He'll be happy to have a discussion on the Bible. And go from there. But I don't know why. I don't have an interest in the Bible. I just don't. Sorry, theist. I'll talk about it sometimes, but Charlie Day says, if we're supposed to be the rational ones promoting critical thinking, why wouldn't it be calling out? Why wouldn't it be calling out such a terrible argument? Exactly. Yeah. Look, I may not be in the atheist community, but I'm certainly I would consider to be in the critical thinking community, if there is such a thing, which I don't think there is. But if there is one, I am in that community. If you guys want to be in a critical thinking community, well, actually, you know what? I'll even modify that. I am in the Great Debate community because I own the Great Debate community. It's part of Facebook group. It was on G+. That is a critical thinking group. People that are in the Great Debate community are critical thinkers. Well, most of them, not all of them. We still have finding truth in there. But for the most part, you know, the things we talk about in the Great Debate community on Facebook is about critical thinking, and we self-check each other all the time, right? I mean, people all the time, I'll run an argument, just like I said to TJ, run an argument, good, bad, or indifferent, run an argument. I respect them for that. I do the same thing. I test out arguments, and then people say, well, this may not work. Oh, that's your logic is flawed here, or hey, maybe you need to reword this here. That's how you get better arguments. The reason why my arguments have stood up over time, like my WASP argument and my atheist semantic collapse argument, the reason why those have stood up, because they have been tested repeatedly by both theist and atheist and other. Nobody yet has defeated those arguments. They've never been assailed. Do I think they can be? Probably not, but who knows? I leave that open. If somebody can show that they're wrong, I'll be like, man, damn it. Yeah, yep, they made a good point, and I'm going to have to reformulate this, or, you know, modify it. Right? Nothing wrong with that. Nothing with finding faults in something and fixing those and shoring them up and buttressing your argument. Chester says, go find Dr. Jim Majors. Yes, Jim Majors would be great for that. Dr. Jim Majors. I would like to see Dr. Jim Majors and Dr. Josh have a discussion on something they disagree on. That would be really amazing. Let's arrange that, Chesh. Let's get that for a show, either non sequitur or whatever. Let's get Dr. Josh and Jim to find something they do not agree on, because that would be epic, I think. Because I respect both of them immensely. Lord Bryant says there should be a Great Debate community advocate here. Thank you, Lord Bryant. I appreciate that, my friend. Or the philosophical community. Yeah, Chester makes a good point. Yeah. I'm not really active that much, I guess, in the philosophical community. I don't know. Let me think about this. That is a good... Yeah, I'm going to say that maybe I'm in a philosophical community. I say that I'm not in any community but my own, and I really kind of do mean that. I don't like... I'm not going to go to like a philosophical get-together, right? But I'm involved in the philosophical community. How about that? I don't know if I'm a member of the philosophical community, but I'm involved in it to some degree. The Lifeline of Apologetics says negative atheism equals lack of belief in God, so negative theism, lacking belief there are no gods, both are stupid. Yeah, and that's basically my WASP argument in a nutshell. If you allow for one, you got to allow for the other. And people think that's straw manning. It's not. They don't understand what a straw man is. It's not straw manning. It's called mirroring. But yeah, and the same thing goes to Aron. If rocks are atheists, they're theists by the same reasoning, right? If rocks lack a belief God exists, and they lack a belief that God does not exist, they're weak atheists, but they're also weak theists. Now, he can argue, well, theist isn't defined that way in the dictionary, therefore it's not descriptive, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, he wouldn't be wrong on that. But my argument has always been, if theists start using the word theist or theism to mean a lack of belief that God does not exist, and the dictionary does start printing that and start using that and says, look, theism is the belief or lack of belief that God does not exist. If they changed it, right, or just even said theism is the lack of belief that God does not exist, at that point rocks become theist, according to Aron Ra, because it's in the dictionary, right? And why not? If you allow for one, you got to allow for the other, because that's my special pleading argument. That is the WASP argument in a nutshell. So what do you guys think so far? I mean, again, I was going to go over my blog for the Aron Ra. I don't know if you guys want me to. It's in the video description, Rock Atheism. I don't know if I feel like really just diving into my blog and going through it bit by bit. I don't know if I really need to. I mean, like I said, I think it's already linked in the video description. What do you guys think? Do you want me to read that blog on air? I think Cheshire may have read it on her blog once. I don't remember. I really don't recall. Amir says, now I'm getting into a Twitter war with Bionic Dance. Oh, my heart goes out to you. She's another rock atheist. She's actually the one that actually started a lot. Well, she didn't really start it, but she was one that really promoted rock atheism about 6, 7, 8 years ago, whatever it was. And even back then, people were going, Bionic Dance, stop it, you're being stupid here. Because she does not know anything about philosophy, not know anything about basic logic. And again, I am not making the claim that I do. I think I know sufficient basics, but I have no idea. I just do what I do, and I enjoy the topic, but I'm definitely nobody of note to cite for philosophy. You could cite me to talk about my arguments, right? But don't cite me as authority by any means, because I'm sure the hell not. But I know enough to say Bionic Dance doesn't know what the hell she's talking about. And she's been told that by the same people that told Aron Ra. So, the Lifeline Apologetics says a great way to put it is all atheists are non-theist. Correct, but not all non-theists are atheists. Correct, and I've said that numerous times. All atheists are non-theists, but not all non-theists are atheists. That is P implies Q, but not Q implies P. The converse doesn't necessarily hold, right? So Aron doesn't understand that concept of the converse, right? Non is a set theory term, but lack theists use this term by conflating it into a philosophical stance. Absolutely, that is correct. Not theist is a category, right? You have theist and you have not theist. And again, this is on one of my other blogs. What do we know about babies if they're just non-theist? Because it's a category. It's a set theory. If you have theist and you have not theist, you have cup, you have not cup, you have duck, you have not duck. For everything you have a negation of that set. And what that means is everything that's not in this set must be in the not set. That's math. It's just simple complementary sets, right? Everything that is not this is in the set of not that. I mean, it's not that hard to figure out. But what Aron does is he has this weird way of looking at set theory, thinking that if you're not atheist, or excuse me, you're not theist, you must be atheist, and that is a semantic issue. Because I have proven that you cannot get atheism from theism without using a semantic substitution. You can't do it from first principles. It is not. If you could do it, show me. I will look at your proof. But I have shown using logic that you can't do it, and nobody's shown my proof to be wrong. So I think it's pretty well set that without a semantic substitution, you cannot get this weird dichotomy that Aron has. Right? A Flame on says, you know more about philosophy than Stephen Molyneux, Steve. I have no idea. I don't know crap about Stephen Molyneux. From what I do know about him, he seems to be a bit of a whack job and maybe even misogynistic from what I remember. But I don't follow, and racist, but I don't follow anything that Stephen Molyneux talks about or people talking about him. I don't even want to dive into that, unless somebody says, hey, Stephen Molyneux said this and it's about philosophy, I might, but I don't think he. Yeah. Amir says, I hope I have enough alcohol to deal with this afterwards. Just says, I went to get together with Trolley Dave and Answers and Reason and Bearded Heretic and Phil, don't know his tag, to look at some of the dumb I've seen recently. Yeah, I know it, and I know that she's going to do a follow-up on this particular subject to talk about rock atheism. Well, let me ask you guys this. I'll let you guys decide, right? If you want me to read my blog about Aron today, press 1 in the live chat. If you want Cheshire to read it, press 2 and give her views. If you want us both to read it, press 3. And maybe I'll go on her channel with her with Answers and Reason and Trolley Dave. This is my blog, and they can ask me questions about it there. But if you want to see that, press 3. So if you want to see me go on to Cheshire's channel, press 3. So she reads it by herself, I read it, or I go on her channel and she reads it. It's 3. Charlie says, best leaving it that way about Stephen Molyneux. He makes the philosophy in me weep. What does he talk about? I don't know what his philosophy is like. Oh, Lifeline Politics says, by the way, I'm Antonio Fletcher, Steve. Nice to see you. Oh, okay. Thanks, Antonio. Thanks. By the way, I appreciate you letting me know that. Nice to see you too, man. Oh, you know what? I should have recognized by the icon, dude. The avatar. Yeah, okay. 3, 3, 3, 3. Okay, well. Looks like the 3 is going to win this. So, Cheshire, I'm coming on your channel when you do your reading of my blog with Trolley Dave and Answers and Reason, Joe and Phil and whoever else. Do you see how I just self-invited myself to her channel like she always does to me? It doesn't. We share channels. We're the same person. We have the same channel. Cheshire is just a female, well, supposedly female version of me. We haven't ever really determined gender with her, and it's always been ambiguous, so whatever. Lord Brian says, I like Al's tweets and arguments. I love it when atheists make good arguments on why there's no God. Yeah. Matter of fact, who was it the other day? I don't know if you guys know this guy named Simon on Twitter, but he's just not a well-read or well-educated atheist. And he said there's no arguments for atheism. He says atheism doesn't have arguments. And people are like, are you nuts? And everybody that knew about atheism philosophy is like, dude, there's a whole bunch of atheist arguments for the non-existence of God. There's a logical problem of evil, evidential problem of evil, divine lineage paradox, divine hiddenness, appeal to theoretical virtues, appeal to consistency, appeal to incoherency. There's a whole bunch of freaking arguments. I mean, there's dozens of them. And Draper has a really good one called Argument to Low Priors. And I love Oppie's Appeal to Theoretical Virtues. In fact, I think it's one of my favorites next to Divine Hiddenness. I don't know which one I like more. They're both pretty solid. Doesn't mean I'm convinced there's no gods, but I think the arguments are really strong enough to justify, if somebody does believe there's no gods, to use those to say there is no gods. God does not exist. And they ask, well, why do you? What evidence do you have that God does not exist? They can trot out those arguments, say, well, here's the argument, say that why God doesn't exist, and they're solid. They're good arguments to discuss. Are they conclusive? No. If there's a conclusive argument one way or another, we wouldn't be having these discussions. But does that mean that they're not good arguments? Of course not. It means they're really good arguments. It just means that they're not deductive, right? They don't deductively show there's no God. They inductively reduce the probability to be so low to justify the belief that there are no gods. Because I think a lot of people get confused between deductive and inductive. They want certainty, right? They want that conclusion to be so solid there's no chance of it being wrong. But that doesn't happen in induction. Induction just has to be cogent. It just has to be greater than 50% and less than 100, because if it was 100, it would be deductive. And I think people don't like that uncertainty. I'm not a fan of uncertainty, especially in real life. Uncertainty is one of the things I detest. But we all have to deal with uncertainties. And I think that people that argue there's no gods, they're not saying, hey, look, I know for an absolute fact there's no God. If they do that, that's a hell of an argument. Because they have to, at that point, I think, provide a deductive argument. And I think the same thing for even theists. I think with theists, when theists say, look, it is absolutely a fact that God exists, I'm going to ask them for a deductive proof on that. Right? I mean, they could believe that, but in order to demonstrate it to somebody else, they need proof. I mean, if aliens exist and aliens came down, let's say aliens came down, they took Cheshire up, and they took her to another planet, and they probed her extensively, and she came back, and she's like, man, I know for a fact aliens exist. I was up there, and they're probing the hell out of me. Okay, she's convinced. She knows. She is. Now, does she have absolute certainty? Not in the Descartes sense, right? In Descartes, certainty is really high standard for that epistemic certainty. So I'm not going to talk about it in the epistemic certainty sense. I'm going to talk about certainty as in the simple knowledge case. Because some people believe in the strong acceptance case of knowledge, it requires certainty. I particularly don't. I accept the weak acceptance case, which just means that you have to believe before you have knowledge, and it doesn't require certainty. I can say I know X to be true without being certain of it. But some philosophers have said that they believe to have actual knowledge, you need to have some kind of certainty. I don't think that. But in her mind's eye, she was there. Right? Aliens abducted her, and she was there. So she could say, look, I'm certain that there are aliens. Okay. And in that capacity, I'm certain that I exist. I'm certain that you guys exist. In that capacity, again, not the epistemic certainty. But as far as, the common understanding of certainty, I'm certain you guys exist. But can I prove it? I don't know. I mean, proving things existential proofs are difficult. If the premises are true and it's sound, yeah. I probably could prove it, but again, it's based on if you accept the premises or not. I accept the premises, certain premises, and therefore, to me, I can make a logical, valid, sound proof that you all exist. But it's again, if you accept the premises to be true. Plantinga points that out. He can make a valid argument that God exists and that he believes is sound, but it's not a proof that people would accept, right? So, is that kind of making sense, though? Is that when people claim certainties, it's a much higher standard. But when an atheist says, look, I believe there are no gods, all they got to do is justify that, is tout out a couple of the arguments for atheism, and then combine them all together and say, look, I think I can show that these arguments for atheism are stronger than the theist arguments, I am justified to believe there's no gods exist. There you go. That's all you got to do. It's not complicated to be an atheist, people. People like, but again, you don't want to dumb it down to the point where like, oh, I just lack a belief, therefore I'm atheist. At that point, you've recused yourself from the conversation. At that point, you have nothing to offer anyone. You're not helping. You're just not. So, let me get rid of these real quick. Lord Brian says, oh, me and Brass found this new deist philosopher online. When I get back to Twitter here soon, really interesting stuff. I know you more than likely will not buy into it still. Yeah, I'm not a deist. I don't accept deism. And at the end of the deism was true. What the hell? What's the point? I mean, if you had some, look at pandeism. If you had some God that existed, that became the universe, so the universe is God. How's that any different than having a natural universe? Nothing changes. Well, we're still going to live, we're still going to die, we're still going to have oblivion and non-existence after death. What's the difference in pandeism? But if people want to believe that, okay, that's fine. There's no way to, I think, to logically prove that. But whatever, it's a belief. You can believe that we're in simulation theory. Matter of fact, there's probably more evidence for simulation theory than there is deism, I think, but whatever. It's a topic to be discussed. I don't think I've ever really had that discussion about deism. So, let's see here. Cheshire says, lack theism just shuts conversation down and remove nuances. Yeah, it's like presuppositionism, right? It's just meant to shut people down, I think. People just use it as a battering ram to make trash gotcha that shows nothing. Yeah, it is an affront. It is an insult to atheism. It makes atheists look stupid. And I've been saying that for 5 years, and God, did I get crapped on for it. I have people stalk me for 5 years merely because I explained that is a dumb way to argue. And I've shown it, and I've written blogs on it. I've written a paper on it that I'm trying to get published. Because I have good, solid arguments. And they don't like that. Because a lot of these atheists in the atheist community, the ones that follow the ACA, they're as dumb as any radical Christian I've seen out there. They're absolutely as moronic as any flat earther or young earth creationist. The bottom rung, young earth creationist. The top rung, yeah, they know their shit when it comes to science because they got PhDs, but they just don't utilize it. They don't effectually use what they learn to discriminate on their belief system and go, wait a minute here. All of reality is pointing me to the fact that the earth is 4.5 billion years old, give or take. But I'm going to discount all that and believe the earth is young. Why? Faith. Okay. But don't teach that in schools. Don't go around dumbing down the rest of the world because you think the earth is 6,000 years old or flat. Right? This is why there are actual anti-flat earth communities out there and anti-young earth communities out there, right? Because they don't want people being dumbed down for that. Now, I think the anti-young flat earth community has become toxic. I haven't involved myself in that for some while because I think that they are money hungry. I think they're dishonest. You guys know that when I recognize somebody to be lying to their audience, I disassociate. I pull back. I separate myself, right? I think that's integrity. I think that has honor and ethics. But there's a lot of backlash for that, obviously. Like when I stepped away from uni, look what happened. I mean, I recognized he was dishonest. And, for 2 years he's made 600 videos about me. Why? Because he's dishonest. So you got to be careful on that. But I'm not a big fan of the anti-flat earth community. Not saying all of them. I mean, there's some great anti-flat earthers out there. Sly Sparkane, great stuff, Wolf, great stuff. Ruhif, great stuff. Who else does some flat earth out there? Oh, that guy, Rhetoric, I think his name, or something like that. Pretty decent. But, a lot of them, they're in it for the show. They're not in it for the subject. And I cannot have respect for that. I just can't. So Antonio says, atheists think that having a belief means having a burden of proof, but that's not necessarily so. It only becomes a burden once you actively participate in the conversation whether or not God exists. Well, yes and no. And let me kind of explain that a little bit, Antonio. You're not exactly right, but you're not exactly wrong. There's different types of burdens of proof. And I think that people don't understand that. There's epistemic burdens of proof. There's burdens of persuasion, burden of production. And in fact, Chester and I have a model. We call it the McCrae-Klein model. But it's not perfect. I will admit that. I mean, it's a very basic, really like a reductio version of how a burden of proof works, kind of like tennis. But it's not exactly like tennis because there's not just one ball in the air at any time. There's a whole bunch of burdens going back and forth at any one time. So it's really it's kind of like the ascent of man. You know, the ascent of man, that was the ape to humans. You know how that not really is how it works in evolution, but they kind of use that to represent evolution, right? The model that Cheshire and I came up with represents that, but it doesn't really tell you the whole story because there's many different burdens. So you're right. You don't have a burden of persuasion if you don't want to convince anybody, right? But you do have a burden for your belief to be rational if you want to be rational. But that's to yourself. That's your epistemic burden, right? If I believe that I exist, I have to justify why I believe that I exist to have a rational belief, right? That doesn't mean you have to have a rational belief. You can have irrational beliefs, as we discussed earlier, right? Just like moral, immoral. You have rational, not rational. You have irrational. Same thing with morality, right? So even when it goes back to the whole rock thing, this cup is irrational, right? It's not rational. Now, the definition of irrational is not rational. Now, I haven't looked that up, but I'm guessing that's probably what it says. So if you just have this weird dichotomy that anything that's not rational is irrational, this cup or my left foot, what do you guys like better, my left foot argument or Steve's cup argument? What do you like better? Tell me which one I use that from here on out. I just always have my coffee cup with me, so I think the cup probably works better. But tell me what you think, cup or foot. But this cup would be irrational. Why would we ascribe irrationality to an inanimate object? Aron, that's stupid. That's just dumb. Who would do that? Why? We don't care about the rationality of a cup. So we say it's irrational. And Aron will say, well, that means without rational. Yeah, but in that particular case, the A has a different connotation, right? It represents something completely different. And it's an etymological fallacy to say that the Greek alpha primitive only mean one thing. It has different usages, just like anti has different usages. That's the whole stupidity that Randolph Richardson has from the president of the Canadian Atheists, who, whatever that organization is of one, that has no tax records, apparently, that everything goes in his back pocket, apparently. But this is not an irrational thing. It's irrational. So that needs to be, I think, better understood that way. Let's see here. Oh, McToon, yeah, Conspiracy Cat, they're great. Yeah, I'm definitely a fan of Conspiracy Cats. Flight to Flat Earth and Team Skeptic, I'll never have anything to do with again. They are absolutely dishonest. Never do have anything to do with them again. Let's see here. They're in it for the show. They're not in it for anything else. And they've lied about their qualifications. So, Antonio says, I agree with you. By the way, I was more speaking along the lines of whether we think beliefs are autobiographical stances versus philosophical positions. Yeah, and I mean, we can have an autobiographical assessment, right? We can do self-referential stuff. If somebody asks me, hey, Steve, do you believe this cup exists? And I say, yes, I believe this cup exists. I'm kind of giving you an autobiographical position, right? I'm kind of giving you just a self-assessment of my beliefs. I'm telling you what my belief is. I'm not trying to convince you, right? And there's a distinct difference to be had there in the English language of when we say, they say, well, you're making a claim. Sure, but I'm making a claim that only I have to justify to myself, unless I'm trying to persuade you. If I say, hey, look, this cup exists, and I can tell you why and prove to you why, then you have more of an onus to do so, right? But if I just say this cup exists, I have no burden to tell you crap why I believe that. Well, you're making a claim. Yeah, but that claim is to myself. I'm telling you what my belief is. I'm not trying to convince you. So in that case, Antonio Fletcher is absolutely right. And that's a distinction that needs to be made. You know, are you trying to convince me? Okay, that's a different burden that you have. Or you're just telling me what your beliefs are. Because if we went around, and I see atheists doing this all the time. They go around and they say, what's your belief on this? And somebody says, well, my belief is this. Prove it. It's like, well, I'm not going to get an argument with you. I'm not going to get a discussion with you. I don't even want to have a dialogue with you. You asked me what my position is. I told you. That's it. We're done at that point. I'm not trying to convince you. Right? I mean, for example, like going back to the 0.99 repeating equals 1. I can prove that 6 ways to Sunday. Doesn't mean I'm going to sit there and spend 2 hours explaining maths to somebody if I think they're incompetent in basic maths or don't want to learn, right? Because they're just sea-lying you at that point. Doesn't mean I can't do it, but I don't have a burden of persuasion to convince you that 0.99 repeating equals 1, unless I'm trying to persuade you, right? But if you ask me, hey, do you believe 0.99 repeating equals 1? I say, yeah. Well, why do you believe that? Oh, I don't want to get into it. Okay, then I reject your claim. Okay, why do I care? Doesn't negate the fact that I'm right. So when an atheist says, oh, I just reject the theist claim, okay, doesn't show that they're wrong, doesn't do anything, it doesn't add any dialogue. You're just telling me that you don't accept their claim. Okay, have a nice day. Now, if we're having a math discussion, then yeah, I would be more willing to talk to you about why I can show mathematically that equality is true. Ashcott says, fight the flat earth and Team Skeptic. We're always just milking flat earth for money. I absolutely believe that, 100%. That's why they can't even listen to their opponent's argument. 2 words in, they decide what the guy is saying and reply accordingly. I've even saw that in non sequitur, right, when they were on there. Absolutely. They're not interested in the dialogue. If you really want to watch a really, I think, good dialogue on flat earth, and I hate to say this, but go watch on my channel, Flat Earth Showdown with Nathan Thompson. That was a long, arduous conversation that we had with a bunch of people, and it even had what's his name in it? Oh my goodness, what was his name? The Rumpus. And the Rumpus knows his shit for the most part. And he knows his, well, I'm just saying for the most part. He knows his physics. He knows his flat Earth. We have disagreed on some things, and I think he's gotten some things wrong. And he's shown that I had something wrong as well, and I accepted that. But he knows his stuff, and he likes the topic. And it was very long and arduous because Rumpus was really drawn out. Yeah, he can pontificate for ages, but it was a really good show, and he made some really good points. Flamo says, fight the flat Earth, Team Skeptic, and Darth Dawkins all argue the same way. Yeah, pretty much. Alex, I don't even want to discuss them because I think they're dishonest, and I really want nothing to do with them. Amir says, unless you want to be a panpsychist and ascribe mind-like or conscious-like properties to inanimate objects. By the way, panpsychism isn't all that woo-woo, I think. There are some arguments to be had for panpsychism, which is scary because people are like, how do you ascribe consciousness to this? But there are some arguments to at least why that might be the case to some capacity, if you want to get into the philosophy of mind. I don't have a good argument against panpsychism right now. And I know a lot of atheist philosophers are looking heavily into panpsychism. So don't discount panpsychism right off the bat. But panpsychism rocks could be atheist. No, I don't think they do, Nerdy Rodent. Even if panpsychism is true, I don't think rocks could be atheism, because even if they still don't have the capacity, right? They don't have the capacity to evaluate a proposition. And if you can't evaluate a proposition, then how the hell can you be an atheist or theist? So even if panpsychism is true, you can't be rocks can't be atheist. The Lifeline Apologetics, why do we have to prove cups are green or that the grass is green? Yeah, you don't. And by the way, green is a property, right? Green is just an accidental property of this cup, right? There's no necessary property that makes this cup be green. It's called an accidental property, right? What makes this a cup, that's a necessary property that has to be able to hold something. That I would consider to be a necessary property. But the colors are not necessary property for that, right? There's this cup could be blue in another possible world. If we successfully prove the grass is green or green is the cup is green, what have we truly accomplished in terms of implications? Well, to begin, there's a lot to be actually accomplished, I think, there, because there's something called, I think it's called projectivism, if I remember correctly, where I have in my head the color green, and I could image green in my head without seeing something, right? So this causal connection between this cup and my brain doesn't have to be there. I can dream in color, which proves that color is not contingent upon what reality is, because I can see color in my mind. It's a phenomenological event, right? And I remember you guys back in the day when we were arguing with Mark Pellegrino from Supernatural. He doesn't accept color or realism, although I don't know why. I don't understand why, but he never effectively explained why he doesn't accept color realism. But I do. I accept color realism. And this color green, in my mind, I project what I imagine as green onto the cup. Now, I don't necessarily think that's the case, but it would be interesting if what you see in your head is it's not the causal relationship between here and here, it's between here and there. So it's interesting, I think. Let's see here. Anthony Thomas says, I stopped paying attention to the whole flat earth nonsense a while ago. Anything said now has been said thousands of times. Flat earthers won't accept reality. How many times much proof you present. And I agree with you. Why do you think I don't do much with flat earth? It's all been said and done. All been said and done. Now, occasionally it should be revisited every so often. I do believe that. Will I revisit it? Yes, at some point, maybe in the near future. But it's going to be one of those things that's just like a one-show kind of thing. These people that talk about flat Earth every day, whatever. If it makes them happy, I can't do it. I just can't. If pancognitivism is true, what if you had a really big, complicated rock? Well, I don't think rocks can achieve sentience, right? I don't think they could obtain self-awareness. I don't think they have what's called higher cognitive functions, or could even have higher cognitive functions. At that point, they would probably need a biological equivalency of some kind. As far as we've seen, the only thing that possesses the ability to have higher executive functions is biological in nature, right? I've never seen anything that isn't biological in nature have any self-awareness, sentience, sapience, or higher cognitive or higher executive functions. Doesn't mean it proves that it can't, but at least gives enough reason to justify a belief that it can't, right? Again, low priors. Since we've never seen a cup have sentience or self-awareness or sapience, I can believe that this cup isn't conscious. Why? Because of low priors. Hey, Steve, do you believe this cup is alive? No. Why? Because we've never seen a live cup before. You know. Now, is that an argument from ignorance? Well, no, because I'm not saying it's never been proven. I'm just saying the argument is that the probability is so low to justify non-belief. An argument from ignorance is saying, I believe that this isn't alive because it has not been proven. That would be an argument from ignorance. It's a fine line on argument for ignorance. Let's see. What do you think about knowing colors by appealing to intuition? We not be able to have a true proof, but it seems something simply known by intuition. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that either. Intuitionism is very interesting, Antonio. In fact, I've been seeing more and more papers being written over the last couple of years about intuitionism. Not that I understand it; it's a very complicated subject. But intuitionism has some points to it. Matter of fact, there's something called intuitionist logics that I think has some merit to it, and it's based upon the fact that in a modal argument, right, in a modus ponens or modal argument, there's different axioms you can take, and intuitionist argument allows you to take certain axioms and discount other axioms, because in modus ponens there's an argument that is not truth preserving, and there's some modifications to modus ponens to make it truth preserving, and I don't remember the modifications are called off the top of my head, but there's no relationship between P and Q in modus ponens. If I say if the moon is made of green, if the moon is made of green cheese, then I am a wolf, right? The moon is made of green cheese, therefore, or a moose. Sorry, that's my thing. If the moon is made of green cheese, then I'm a moose. The moon is made of green cheese, therefore I am a moose. That's logically valid. We all know that's logically valid. Sound? No. But it is logically valid. But there's no relationship between the moon being green cheese and me being a moose. There's no relationship there, which is fine. It doesn't need to be in classical or sentential logic. It doesn't need to be. In intuition logic, there is a relationship to be had there. So it gets a little more nuanced about logic. So I think there's some interesting points to be made there. But I think a lot of us do have intuition, and I think a lot of us rely on intuition. And I don't think there's really a big deal about that. I think that intuition is part of being human, right? So let's see here. Where are we at on the super chat? Morality by let's see here. If the cup is the very first sentient green cup ever, then probably skyrockets. Yeah. Well, it depends too. It was hard when you have a sample size of one. Now we can say that yes, cups are sentient. Can we have an example? Right? Sure. That's all it takes. It only takes one instance. One instance. Is there life in the universe? Yes. Why? Because there's life on the earth. One instance. But we are the only instance. It's very hard to extrapolate from that to say, well, because life is on Earth, life must exist somewhere else. That's a hard argument. I think we can argue intuitively, like Antonio Fletcher pointed out, that it is the case that since life has developed on Earth, there's a strong probability that life exists on other planets. People can argue that. That takes some argumentation. But a simple argument would be this: life exists on Earth, therefore the probability is greater than one that exists somewhere else. That's a foolproof argument right there. If anybody has a counter to that argument, please let me know, because I can't think of one. By the way, did you guys tell me what you guys like better? Do you guys like Steve's argument to cup, or Steve's argument to foot? What do you guys like better? I didn't catch it. Cheshire, what was more popular, the cup or the foot? Because I must have missed it. Do it over again, because I'm sorry I missed it. So I'll watch again. So cup or foot? I don't know why it matters to me. I'm just kind of curious. Antonio says, if AI were to become sentient, it would probably ask how humanity managed to create it when there's so many morons living among us. Yeah, it would be an interesting philosophical question for AIs, right? Now, I admit, and this is a full bias on my part. I completely am aware of this. Look, we all try to be as rational as possible, or at least my audience does for the most part. We got some other people in here that don't give a shit about rationality, but the people that follow me and my Patreons and members, they tend to be rational people. But I will admit that this is purely cognitive bias. But it seems to me that in order to have some kind of an active self-awareness, there needs to be a biological component to it. If AI exists, I don't know if it could ever be without some kind of neurological component to it, right? Strictly from a computer system using inorganic material. At this moment, I don't believe that AI is possible, right? I'm not going to say it's not possible. I'm not going to go that far, because that would require a lot more evidence and burden to justify that. But it seems to me that without a biological component, AI could not exist. But if you have a biological component at that point, is it really AI? No, you're more like a cyborg at that point, right? But cup or foot, Steve 2021. So Nerdy says I like cup more than feet. Yeah, I do too. I'm not a foot person. There's people with foot fetish I don't get. So I like cup too. So Cheshire, I'm going to go with cup. So Steve's cup argument. Green cup. All hail the green cup. There you go, Chesh. Make this into a meme for us, would you please? Steve's green cup. It's been around for a while. I got 4 of these, actually. I told you. I used to have one for coffee, one for juice, and one for water, and then like one extra one. But over time, I just said I don't care. I wanted one for this water. It doesn't have any coffee flavor. But these things actually clean pretty well, so... Antonio says, I've been pissing off a lot of atheists on lack of belief being a necessary condition of atheism versus sufficient condition. They're wrongly thinking lacking a belief is necessary and sufficient. Absolutely, yeah. Lacking a belief is a necessary condition for atheism. I am not convinced that is sufficient by any stretch of imagination. Matter of fact, I am convinced it cannot be a sufficient condition, at least to maintain a coherent schema, right? Because again, I've already demonstrated earlier in this stream that if you have necessary and sufficient conditions for atheism to be a lack of belief, if lack of belief is both necessary and sufficient, then you can argue it is necessary and sufficient to not have morals to be immoral. Therefore, this cup is immoral. It is necessary and sufficient to lack rationality. Therefore, this cup is irrational. Same argument. Same argument. Chester. So Chester is making memes on the order of myself. Yes, you like how I order her around? I just tell her what to do. Chester, make a meme. I actually I did have Chester make a thumb for me the other day, and she made it within like 25 seconds. I'm like, I hate you. I'm not even kidding. I was like half a minute done. I really got to learn Critter, I guess, one of these days. I've been using GIMP, which is really hard to use, and I'm not good at it. April says, wait. Rocks don't have a belief in God because they can't believe anything. By that logic, they don't believe God doesn't exist, so why wouldn't rocks be some sort of agnostic? Okay, so that's an interesting point, and the reason for that, and this is where dishonest lawyer Nate Brody butchered what I said, and he took a clip from something that I was arguing, doing an internal critique, and made it look normative. And I've never believed that rocks were atheists, or never believed that rocks were agnostic, ever. That's never been the case. But he took a dishonest clip and, look, Steve's arguing rocks are agnostic. Bullshit, that never happened. I was doing an internal critique. Because the argument was, look, if you do not have a belief God exists, and you do not believe God does not exist, that's the same logical notation as agnostic. That is true. But that doesn't mean they're agnostic for the same reasoning, right? That's like saying Christians are BP. This logical notation for believing the proposition true would be BP or BSG, if you want to use G as God proposition. That would be the Burgess-Jackson or Demi notation. But if you want to use like Malpass's notation or some other people's notation, it's BP, simple. So believes the proposition. So Christians believe the proposition is true. So Jewish people believe the proposition is true. Doesn't mean all Jews are Christians, obviously, right? So just because it has that logical notation to represent it doesn't mean it is agnostic. So that Nate makes the same mistake that a lot of people make. Just because the logical notation for an agnostic is this doesn't mean that anything that has a logical notation is that. The converse doesn't hold. Right? Yeah, so yes, the logical notation for a rock is not BP and not B, not P. Doesn't mean they're agnostic. So, does it make sense? A lot of people have a hard time not understanding the converse doesn't hold. P implies Q doesn't mean Q implies P. Can it? Yes. But then you have a bilateral material condition where you have an implication where the one implies the other implies this. So if P implies Q and Q implies P, then you have a material implication. Right? So another thing is rocks lack hair, but who says rocks are bald? Well, no, the atheists do. Rocks are bald. And by the way, baldness doesn't have to do with hair. Right? Bald could be tires are bald. Do they have hair? No. They get bald when they have no threads. Again, these words have usages. They convey a meaning to something to understand so people know what you're referring to. When I say a tire is bald, I'm not saying a tire doesn't have hair. I'm saying tires do not have threads. Right? Baldness seems to fit more of a hair deficiency, not so much lacking hair, although saying lack of hair is colloquial. Well, again, it's a necessary condition. A bald man lacks hair. That's a necessary condition, So, but it's not sufficient because not everything that lacks hair is bald. A tire lacks hair, but if it has threads, it isn't bald. So lacking hair cannot be a sufficient condition for baldness. If you're going to use the word semantic like that. Check Twitter. Oh, what did she send me? Did she see? She already made it. See how fast she is? She does artsy stuff. Check Twitter. Oh, you didn't DM me. It's probably a notification. So. Let's see here. The Green Cup, the greatest love story ever told. Oh, that's sweet. Let me save that image. Aww. Oh. Let me show you guys what she done did here. Let's see here. Let me bring it up here. Oops, clicked too fast. All right, there we go. This is Cheshire's work of art here. Shoot, just whatever. There we go. That's her work of art. The greatest love story ever told. I don't know. I can't move it around. I don't have it locked. Oh yes, I do. I did have it locked. That's why. There we go. I'll center it a little bit. There we go. So. Yeah, there you go. The greatest love story. I love that cup. This is a great cup. This has been a good cup. Well, all four of them. But this is my main coffee cup. Let's see here. So thank you for that, Chesh. Oh, there are two. Oh, okay. She's been active. Aww. Okay. Let me save that. This is the other one she did, so here you go. So I guess a little affection. We all need affection and love. Most affection I've gotten in a very long time, I assure you. All right. All right. So where are we at? So that was funny. Thank you, Josh. Should I go back to triggering people with the whole atheist mass burial site? Yeah, so I'm gonna leave that one up because that way we know it's serious. Because obviously, atheists are being mass buried here, and it's tragic. It is a tragedy of epic proportions. I mean, how many millions of atheists are being buried right there in a mass grave? I mean, oh, I clicked the wrong button somewhere. Oh, there we go. Sorry. If I make another one when the stream is over, yeah, I'm going to be ending this soon. This is not a long stream today. I've never heard of a bald tire. Really, Antonio? Yeah, yes. You never. Matter of fact, when you do a depth meter on a tire, you have a depth gauge, and you have to have a certain amount of thread, or they're considered to be bald. I actually take your views on this subject seriously. Honestly, I probably wouldn't even give a bald tire a second thought if Alacthea said it. Yes, but bald tires are atheist, according to Aron. According to Aron, bald tires are atheist. Of course, according to Aron, cars are atheist. According to Aron, this is a mass grave of atheist. I mean, I'm telling you guys, if this is not something that shows you how dumb this argument is, I don't know what would. I really don't. I really don't know how else to explain how dumb this argument is. And more people are seeing that as dumb. I'm telling you, Aron, you just need to stop, man. You're just embarrassing yourself. Despite the fact we disagree on many theist-like party suppositions, and I do enjoy your views on this particular topic, and I appreciate that. Yeah, we don't have to agree on everything. I disagree with you on a few things. But on this particular topic, you seem to have a really good handle on it, Antonio, and I appreciate that. You've objectively looked at the evidence and said, yeah, I can't escape this reasoning. Let's see here. All right. Well, like I said, I'm going to kind of wrap it up since you don't want me to read my blog in this particular stream, which is just fine because it went a little long and I'm a little bit worn out. Still got a lot going on. But I'm going to be putting out more product, more shows. So, get people out there to find the channel and watch this kind of stuff, especially this kind of stuff. This is what I want to do most of all. So, put my videos out there, and hopefully, eventually, I don't think Aron's going to stop using this argument. I just don't. He's beyond hope. But I think more and more people will give him pushback and go, Aron, just stop. You're looking stupid. And like I said, if you really want to help out, become a Patron to the channel. Link is in the video description. Link is at the top of the live chat. It really means a lot if you guys become Patron. Like I said, if I get 100 people at $10 each, I'll be good to go. Because people know I'm funding, 2 lawsuits. Well, 1 lawsuit. One's already done. And I did pay some money for that one. But check Twitter. Aw, I'm not going to show. You can show those on your channel. I'll save those for you. That's cute. Looks a little pervy, but whatever. And that cup looks scared, dude. That is a scared cup right there. See, you got. You want me to show that, Chess? Or you want to show it on your channel? Because you're doing me dirty there, girl. Doing me dirty. Make me look like this cup consented. Okay, Chess. This cup consent. Oh wait, no, it can't consent because it's. God dang it. This cup is an inanimate object. It can't give consent. I violated the cup's personal autonomy, according to T-Jump, at least. So, and Tony says, does Aron want to debate you on this topic? Not a chance in hell. Aron will never discuss with me, even off-air, any of these topics, because he knows he doesn't have a rat's chance in hell. He's been told by people that he respects that are logicians that I'm right, and he's wrong. And so Matt Dillahunty's in the same boat. If Matt Dillahunty and Aron Ra had the ability to show that I'm wrong using logic, they would have already done so. Using logic, not bad argumentation, but using logic. I use logic on my page, right? So if they can show my WASP argument to be wrong, they would have shown it by now. If they were to show them that the McRae-Knoll from Landon-Kurt-Knoll Venn diagram is wrong, they would have showed it to be wrong. If they could show my atheist semantic collapse argument is wrong, they would have showed it to be wrong. Although I get on my blog, it's a very simple version of it. But my main paper that I wrote is very different than what I have on my blog. I mean, the crux is there, but I really broke it down into a very different way, using Goulding logic and going after Anthony Fleur's argument in a very, I think, academic approach. And in fact, the PhDs that read my paper had no idea that a graduate even wrote that. They even knew it was someone who was an undergrad, because I never graduated, so I'm not a graduate. But they're not told that. They were just told by Dr. Malik, said, hey, I have somebody who has this paper, and they want to get some feedback on it, and you guys are experts in this topic. Can you guys read it and get feedback on it? And the 5 people did. I know all of them had PhDs. But the one of the person I do know who they are, or know of them. They're based out of Europe. They teach at a very well-known school in Europe. I think it was Oxford, but don't quote me on that. But anyway, still, they said it was a really good paper, and props to the author. So if they couldn't find any logical logical errors in it, then I certainly don't think Matt Dillahunty and Aron Ra are going to do it, right? I mean, they couldn't even find any logical error in my blog. They're not going to find one in my paper, I don't think. Especially because I had mathematician Josh Garver go over it. He couldn't find any errors, and had Landon Kurt Knoll go over it, and he couldn't find any mathematical or logical errors. So I don't know. I'm not. And by the way, let me make this very clear. I am not saying my paper is correct because they cannot find errors. That would be a fallacy, right? And I've had people on Facebook say, "Well, you're doing a fallacy." No, I'm not. I'm saying the probability is high that my paper is logically correct, because to date, people that are experts have not found fault with it. So if I had to bet money on it, I would bet money on it that there's no logical errors. Why? Because if there was, I believe that it would have been pointed out by now. That's a reasonable, rational argument to be had, is it not? I think so. Mr. Sirius says, get the cat baptized. Well, no, it doesn't matter. You know what, Mr. Sirius, you might have a point here. Look, because this cup is immoral, I think Christians should try to save the soul of this cup, because it would be going to hell. According to Aron Ra, this is an immoral cup, therefore Christians would believe that it's going to hell. Actually, I think most Christians would probably go, no, Aron, you're out to lunch, right? So, all right, like I said, I'm going to wrap it up, guys. Thanks for watching this. Cheshire will let people know when she reads my blog, and I will join that stream, and we'll go over that on her channel. I want to thank everybody for their support, their memberships, and like I said, the Patreon is going to be my big push until my GoFundMe is back up. And maybe I might just push both, because they're going to be taking my GoFundMe up and down. And even though I have several months to fund that, I'm not waiting until the last minute. I'm doing everything now as much as humanly possible. So if you guys want to support me on that, become a member or maybe increase a little bit. Because like I said, I am going to put out more product, and so I do appreciate it immensely. And all those who have supported me forever, you guys have my eternal gratitude. Look how blue this chat is. It's all Cheshire. All right. Anybody out there want to promote anything? I'm still happy to promote stuff anytime. Show the tweet, coward. Which tweet? You want me to show that? You want me to show that the one you did? Sure. Oh, I did this one. I'll show. Let me save this. Save image as. So. Nope, not that one. I don't know where it went. Should be in my downloads here. There it is. All right. So here you go. That's her new one. There you go. The Steve and the Green Cup, the love story. Yes. And that's okay. I do love this cup, and that's all I'm ever going to love ever again. Just a cup. Stephen the cup. Hey, you know what? If Nikolai Tesla could love pigeons, I can love a cup. Okay? So. I don't think anything's doing anything to kind of wrap anything up. So with that, guys, thank you very much. Thanks for watching. I am working tomorrow. I don't think I'm going to be streaming. Then I got a VA appointment on Tuesday. So maybe the next few days I may or may not stream. I doubt it. But if not, I'll see you on Wednesday. Okay? And good night.